The story begins in a mysterious world situated thousands of kilometers beneath the Earth's surface, a place where the terror of dangerous creatures reigns supreme, stretching from the skies down to the depths of the waters. It was here that we first encountered the guardian of this world, King Kong, who had arrived at the edge of a lake accompanied by a small monkey. However, he had absolutely no idea that he was about to fall into a trap that had already been laid. The little monkey suddenly sensed that a grave danger lay lurking within the lake ahead. Nevertheless, he deliberately goaded Kong into entering the water, but his cunning did not escape Kong's notice. He simply stirred the surrounding air with a gentle. He smelled it and immediately knew he was in for a good catch. Without a word, Kang dove straight into the lake and began to bathe comfortably. Meanwhile, the little monkey, worried that he might be caught, pretended to drink water. Suddenly, a strange creature began moving rapidly toward them. While bathing, Kang also sensed danger. As he looked back, a huge dragon opened its mouth and pounced on him. Seeing this, the little monkey realized his plan had succeeded and immediately ran toward the shore to save himself. Meanwhile, Kang was on the ground, looking for all kinds of creatures. He had already won the battle, yet he was facing an adversary of this nature in the water for the very first time. Kang was just beginning to anticipate his opponent's moves when suddenly, the dragon dragged him straight down into the depths of the lake. However, the dragon had no idea just how dangerous Kang could become when enraged. Meanwhile, the little monkey was under the impression that he had finally escaped Kang's clutches forever. But in the very next instant, King Kong's massive weapon came crashing down right in front of him. Before the little monkey could even comprehend what was happening, Kang hurled the severed head of that dragon directly at his feet. Upon seeing this, the little monkey feared that Kang was about to give him a brutal beating. Instead, Kang did nothing of the sort. He simply retrieved his axe and signaled for him to move forward. He signaled. In truth, the ape did not know that King Kong had been wandering this world alone for thousands of years, searching for one of his own kind. He went hungry every day, and often, the dangerous wolves of this region would relentlessly harass him, chasing him down. Whenever hundreds of wolves set upon him, he would somehow manage to escape by leaping away. But this time, the pack of wolves did not give up the chase. They continued their relentless attempts to surround him. Finally, when a deep ravine loomed before him, leaving him with no avenue of escape, he was forced to turn around and prepare to fight. The wolves were convinced that this time, the hunt would be easy. What happened? But they had no idea that King Kong was already lying in wait, having set a trap beforehand. The moment a wolf lunged forward, Kong's trap suddenly activated, and the wolf was instantly ensnared. As it plummeted into the pit, sharp wooden stakes pierced straight through the wolf's body. Seizing the perfect opportunity, Kong immediately hoisted a massive tree trunk and hurled it into the pit. As the traps triggered one after another, boulders the size of mountains began to come crashing down from the slopes, and the wolves attempting to flee were trapped right where they stood. However, once the smoke cleared, a few surviving wolves still refused to give up on their prey. Enraged, King Kong grabbed one of the wolves, seized the carcass, and, displaying his immense strength, violently tore it apart, splitting it into two pieces. Witnessing this, the remaining wolves fled the scene in sheer terror, tucking their tails between their legs. However, despite having secured a kill, there was no sign of joy on King Kong's face, as the rotting teeth in his mouth were causing him great distress. Meanwhile, a lizard that had been lying in ambush seized the opportunity to snatch a piece of the meat and make a dash for it. King Kong immediately lunged to intercept it, but just then, his attention was diverted by a sound coming from a distance. Hearing a roar echoing from the valley, he felt that perhaps one of his own kind was calling out to him. Consequently, he immediately sprinted in that direction. Upon arriving there, however, he found nothing but a strange-looking frog, one that bore a resemblance to himself, was emitting a sound. Even after wandering for years, he remained alone, and this very emptiness was breaking him from within. Eventually, the agony of a toothache compelled him to seek help from humans. Reluctantly, he entered the human world. Upon arriving there, King Kong collapsed onto a hill and waited for assistance. Just then, by a stroke of luck, a group of scientists spotted him. However, out of panic, and for the sake of safety, the humans administered a massive dose of anesthesia to him. Consequently, he fell unconscious right there. Following this, they summoned the city's most renowned dentist. The dentist, without wasting a single moment, to extract that rotten tooth. A strong steel cable was tied tightly around it. At that very moment, Kong let out a foul, putrid stench from his mouth. With all preparations complete, just as the spacecraft suddenly took flight, with a sudden jolt, King Kong's massive tooth was yanked out. When King Kong regained consciousness, he saw that his old tooth had now been replaced by a sturdy titanium one. With this new tooth came an immense surge of strength, making him feel as though he could now defeat anyone. But just then, inside the lab, an emergency signal suddenly arrived from King Kong's world, one that took everyone by surprise. To uncover the truth behind this signal, scientists immediately assembled a rescue team and launched a mission. Accompanied by King Kong, they leaped through a portal that led directly into Kong's world. As they proceeded, their spacecraft began to be pulled downward at high speed, and within moments they entered that mysterious realm. realm. Upon arriving home, Kong discovered that his food had been stolen. He immediately grabbed his axe and headed straight to the top of a cliff. There he noticed a faint blue light emanating from deep within a fissure, a sight that immediately captured his attention. To uncover the truth, without a second thought, he leaped straight into the depths below. The moment he plunged into the pitch-black darkness, his axe began to glow of its own accord. As the light illuminated the surroundings, he saw that strange, luminous stones were scattered everywhere. Reacting to the glow just then, a terrifying roar suddenly echoed from the distance. Following the sound, he made his way across the waterfall, where a new, hidden world revealed itself to him. Moving forward cautiously, he caught the scent of a strange, foul odor that seemed to be drawing him toward it. Suddenly, looming before him, emerged a massive and incredibly dangerous silhouette. Upon seeing it, King Kong immediately raised his axe, bracing himself for the confrontation. As the two faced off, the distance narrowed, and that massive silhouette gradually shrank. Yet, when it finally came into view, the reality turned out to be something entirely different. In truth, it was not some monster at all, but rather a small, innocent, yellow-haired monkey, a sight that left even him astonished. Seeing another creature of his own kind for the first time in thousands of years, King Kong immediately bowed down and laid aside his weapon. He then extended his hand, seeking to befriend the monkey. He had assumed that the little monkey, much like himself, would be delighted to encounter one of its own kind, but suddenly, it sank its teeth fiercely into King Kong. After having found a kindred spirit with such difficulty, King Kong did not want to let him go so easily. Therefore, he ran after the ape, but suddenly, a terrifying shadow loomed up behind him. He was utterly startled by the sight, for never before had he encountered a bald gorilla of his own massive size. Just as Kong began to advance toward him, two long-armed gorillas suddenly rushed in from behind and slammed him forcefully to the ground. Judging by the smirk on the bald one's face, it was clear that they had come with the sole intention of fighting. Consequently, King Kong too resolved to take them down. He immediately snatched up a boulder and hurled it straight at one of the gorillas. In a fit of rage, the bald ape too rushed forward to attack him, but King Kong cleverly outmaneuvered him as well. In just a few moments, he proceeded to knock everyone to the ground. Even the bald ape, despite wielding his axe, was powerless against him and ended up completely flattened. Just as King Kong stepped forward to retrieve his weapon, a small yellow monkey suddenly came running up and, leaping onto his face, attempted to attack him. Seeing this, King Kong grabbed the monkey and, using him as a weapon, proceeded to give the remaining gorillas a sound thrashing. Although they knew they stood no chance against King Kong, they continued to attack him, one after another. Meanwhile, one of the apes accidentally fell into a ravine, but King Kong, displaying great agility, he immediately grabbed him and hauled him up. But instead of showing gratitude, the man picked up a knife from the ground and struck at King Kong. Witnessing this, King Kong's fury erupted, and with a powerful kick, he hurled the man back down into the deep ravine. Terrified by this turn of events, the bald man immediately turned around and fled. King Kong picked up a nearby stone and hurled it at him. It flew straight and struck him squarely on the head. Despite the injury, he continued to flee, muttering incoherently and without ever looking back. Just then, King Kong reached into the trees where a monkey was hiding, dragged it out, and slammed it forcefully onto the ground. He then picked up the knife the bald man had dropped and signaled to the small monkey to lead him to the gorilla's hideout. Lead the way. The poor little monkey, having no choice, began to walk ahead, while King Kong followed close behind him. As they ventured deeper inside, they began to spot various dangerous animals. However, within this seemingly tranquil place, danger lurked at every step. To save himself, the little monkey cunningly led King Kong into the territory where a colossal dragon resided. But little did he know that this ploy of his would not hold up for long against King Kong. Suddenly, a massive dragon loomed right before them. Yet, instead of being intimidated, King Kong finished it off within a mere few minutes, and then, quite nonchalantly, he sat down and began to eat it. Seeing this, the little monkey too wanted to approach him. However, out of fear, he could not muster the courage to do so. Observing his plight, King Kong himself broke off a piece of meat and extended it toward him. Yet, the little monkey still could not bring himself to trust him. Seeing this, King Kong grew angry and threw the meat onto the ground, as if to say, "Eat it if you want to, otherwise go to hell." Overcome by hunger, the monkey immediately began to devour the meat, and with every mouthful, his perspective began to shift. He realized that King Kong was not nearly as bad as he had imagined. Gradually gathering his courage, he approached King Kong, sat down beside him, and the two of them quietly began to spend time together. At this moment, it seemed as if a father was enjoying a peaceful moment with his child. But little did they know that as they advanced, danger was rapidly approaching them. As they delved deeper, King Kong finally saw creatures like himself, but his heart broke to see that they were all living in extremely poor conditions. They were forced to work all day, and their lives were nothing short of hell. Meanwhile, an old monkey accidentally dropped a stone, which enraged the gorilla, who beat him severely. Seeing this, King Kong could not control himself and loudly shouted he struck his axe into the ground and lifted up the old ape. Just then, a guard present at the scene rushed furiously toward King Kong, warning him not to interfere. But in the very next moment, King Kong's courage ignited a spark of hope among the other apes. However, at that same instant, the bald ape who had fled earlier was watching it all unfold. He immediately went and reported everything to the local ruler, Scar King. Upon hearing the gorilla's account, Scar King's fury erupted. As he rose from his throne, every ape that crossed his path bowed down before him. Yet, King Kong stood his ground, fearless and undaunted. Scar King observed him closely, and, aiming right at Kong's face, he struck his axe into the ground and lifted up the old ape. Just then, a guard present at the scene rushed furiously toward King Kong, warning him not to interfere. But in the very next moment, King Kong's courage ignited a spark of hope among the other apes. However, at that same instant, the bald ape who had fled earlier was watching it all unfold. He immediately went and reported everything to the local ruler, Scar King. Upon hearing the gorilla's account, Scar King's fury erupted. As he rose from his throne, every ape that crossed his path bowed down before him. Yet, King Kong stood his ground, fearless and undaunted. Scar King observed him closely, and, aiming right at Kong's face, he burst into laughter upon seeing the steel teeth embedded in his jaw. However, the very next moment, to vent his rage, he kicked a monkey and hurled it into the molten lava. Witnessing this, King Kong's fury reached its absolute peak. To demonstrate his power, Scar King drew a weapon from his shoulder and readied himself to teach King Kong a lesson. King Kong immediately grabbed his axe as well, and a fierce battle erupted between the two. Leveraging the advantage of his long-range weapon, Scar King launched a sudden attack, leaving King Kong no time to recover, not even for a single instant. Utilizing the crystal embedded in his weapon, Scar King rained down a barrage of blows upon Kong. Enraged, Kong lunged at him, fell. In terms of sheer strength, he stood no chance against King Kong. Consequently, he maintained his distance from Kong and began launching a relentless barrage of attacks, forcing King Kong to gradually retreat. Meanwhile, King Kong's axe slipped from his grasp and clattered to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, his adversary used his own weapon to clamp down on King Kong's throat, attempting to bring him under control. Scar King believed he had already won the battle. However, King Kong mustered every ounce of his strength to hoist him up and slam him violently back down onto the ground. Within moments, King Kong had pinned him down. At that very instant, Scar King resolved that he would not yield until he had unleashed his true power. Just as the stone embedded in his weapon began to glow, just then the gorillas suddenly dropped boulders, blocking the path of the lava. At that very moment, the eyes of the terrifying monster hidden within the cave became visible. The scorching ground suddenly turned to ice, and out emerged that colossal creature, Titan Shimo, who had once encased the entire world in ice. The Scar King immediately ordered him to attack Kong. However, Shimo did not appear pleased with this command. As the pressure on him intensified, he writhed in pain and out of sheer compulsion launched his attack. Displaying great agility, King Kong instantly leaped aside, narrowly evading the initial strike. He then braced himself, holding his axe up in defense. Yet, against the sheer might of Shimo, all his efforts proved futile, began to fall. In the blink of an eye, his hand started to freeze, gradually transforming into ice. This sudden assault left his right hand severely injured, and he began to lose his strength. Seizing the opportunity, Scar King immediately gave the order to finish him off. Next attack was about to strike. A small monkey from behind pointed toward a tunnel and urged him to flee immediately. At that very moment, Shimo, left with no other choice, launched another attack. Seeing this, Kong immediately turned around and swiftly retreated into the tunnel. However, hundreds of dangerous monkeys were still hot on his heels. Fortunately, having lived there for years, Kong had laid numerous traps throughout the jungle. But those monkeys, their numbers were so overwhelming that they quickly cornered the wounded Kong in a dead-end path. Now, this was the very last trap he had left, the only one he could still rely on. However, the apes, who had been falling into traps all along the way, suddenly became alert this time. They immediately spotted the vine lying on the ground, which was designed to trigger the trap. When Kong realized that his plan had failed, he felt that his end was near. At that very instant, however, the trap positioned atop the hill suddenly activated, and a massive boulder, weighing hundreds of tons, crashed down directly upon them, crushing every ape present beneath its weight. It was then that Kong realized the one who had triggered the trap was none other than, in fact, it was that very ape. By now, Kong was severely wounded and in no condition to fight. Consequently, relying on the support of the smaller ape, he began making his way back toward the humans. However, he had no idea that one ape had actually survived. Meanwhile, the scientists accompanying Kong discovered that their base camp had been completely destroyed. Just then, their eyes fell upon a massive handprint etched into the rock face, leading them to surmise that other colossal creatures, much like Kong, existed within this world. Soon, they ventured deep into the jungle, where they spotted a hidden mechanism. The moment the young woman pressed it, water instantly began to cascade down from various points. That water, they converged to form a swift current that began flowing deeper into the forest. Tracking its course, the scientists eventually arrived before a mysterious, magical wall that concealed a hidden, invisible realm within the woods. The moment they touched the wall, a blue glow surged through it. Upon witnessing this, they immediately created an opening in the wall, and were instantly confronted with a sight that left them utterly wide-eyed with astonishment. Behind the wall lay a world of such exquisite beauty and mystery, a realm that no one had ever seen nor even heard of until that very day. As the scientists stepped into this world, they suddenly encountered the indigenous tribespeople of that land, surrounded them. These people looked like humans, but their clothing was completely different from that of a normal human. Without harming the scientists, they took them directly to their tribe. Once there, they discovered that these people had been living underground for thousands of years and were protecting a portal directly connected to the world above. The Scar King had been searching for this very place for years so that he could use this portal to take over the human world. At that very moment, King Kang, smelling the scent of humans, reached the scientists. But because of the invisible wall, he could not see the world within, so the tribe created a crack in the magical wall, allowing them to see inside. Kong easily made his way inside and headed straight into the midst of the humans. However, they were unaware that the ape who had been pursuing them had witnessed it all. The moment King Kong arrived before the humans, he suddenly grew weak and collapsed directly onto the ground. The scientists observed that Kong's arm was severely injured and that he was no longer in a condition to perform any action. Upon seeing this, the doctor immediately decided that Kong's arm would have to be completely replaced. He instantly came up with the idea of a mechanical arm. This was the very same super mechanical arm that the humans had originally designed to make Kong even more powerful. The fortunate thing was that this gadget was still located beneath the ruins of the destroyed base. It had been kept safely secured in the underground mechanical store. The doctor soon retrieved it from there, brought it directly over Kwang's body, and released it immediately. The machine, acting entirely of its own accord, identified Kwang's injured area and began to bond with it. The moment the specialized medication contained within the arm entered Kwang's bloodstream, the unconscious Kwang seemed to feel a surge of newfound strength. The look of joy on his face clearly indicated that he was immensely pleased with this new weapon. But just then, a small monkey suddenly came rushing out of the jungle and arrived at the scene. He informed Kwang that the Scar King had discovered the location of the portal and, in alliance with Shimo, was preparing to launch an attack on the tribe. Kong alone could not stand against the Scar King and Shimo. Therefore, only one path remained open to him: to venture into the human world and awaken Godzilla, who had been slumbering for years. However, he had absolutely no idea that the very being he was calling upon for aid, Godzilla himself, would prove to be his greatest threat. Suddenly, the ground surrounding the pyramid began to shake violently, and a mechanical arm emerged from beneath the surface. This was the very sight that opened the portal leading back to Earth. Moments later, Kong stepped through the portal. The instant he sensed Kong's presence, Godzilla abruptly roused from his slumber and, without wasting a single moment, began to advance directly toward him. Just as, when he arrived in front of Kong, Godzilla thought Kong had come to challenge him. So, without wasting a moment, he attacked him at full speed. The anger in his eyes clearly indicated that he would not let Kong live. Seeing Godzilla rapidly approaching him, Kong raised his hand and tried to reason with him. But Godzilla would not listen to anything. He rammed straight into him, throwing him hundreds of meters away. Seeing Godzilla not stopping, Kong attacked from behind to try and calm him down. But as soon as the sand got into his eyes, Godzilla went into a rage. It flared up in rage. It spun around, clamped its jaws onto Kong's arm, and slammed him violently against the ground, leaving Kong completely disoriented. Kong hadn't even had a chance to recover when Godzilla lunged at him once again. When words proved futile, Kong launched a fierce counterattack of his own. Although Godzilla was in his most powerful form, Kong, now bolstered by the strength of his mechanical arm, was no longer inferior to anyone. However, realizing that he would be unable to defeat Godzilla, Kong wasted not a single moment. He seized him and began forcibly dragging him toward the portal. Meanwhile, the members of the tribe mixed a special red liquid into the water in an effort to stop the Scar King. The moment the liquid dissolved in the water, a magical transformation, it began. A system activated, one designed to link two massive pyramids together, and the moment these pyramids connected, gravity would momentarily cease to exist. Consequently, everyone would begin to float in midair, making it nearly impossible for the Scar King to reach the portal. However, before the pyramids could fully converge, the Scar King arrived at the scene. Upon his arrival, he immediately recognized the anti-gravity system. He instantly ordered Shimo to seal off the passage between the pyramids using ice. Just then, suddenly, a blinding beam of light erupted from the portal and crashed down onto the ground. The very next moment, Godzilla and Kong burst forth, tearing through the rubble. The instant Godzilla's gaze fell upon Shimo and the Scar King, and in that instant he understood exactly why Kong had brought him here. Therefore, without wasting a single second, he joined forces with Kong and lunged at them. Meanwhile, the Scar King too began advancing toward them alongside Shimo. Neither side was weak. The very moment the four of them clashed, the ice shattered shattered, and the pyramids slammed into one another. The shockwave generated by that collision obliterated the gravity throughout the entire area. Everyone began to float in midair. Yet, despite this, Godzilla, unhindered by the lack of gravity, swiftly dodged the attacks and charged straight toward Shimo. Meanwhile, the cunning Scar King snatched up Kong's axe and turned it against him. But Kong, using his mechanical arm, blocked every single blow, delivered the blow. In just a few moments, the tables turned, and Kong began to gain the upper hand over the Scar King. However, due to the sheer number of enemies, he began to face attacks from behind. Seeing this, the little monkey picked up a stone and rushed to Kong's aid. Just then, seizing the opportunity, Shimo attacked Godzilla and, in a matter of moments, completely encased him in ice. But Godzilla was no less formidable. With a single powerful surge, he shattered the ice. At that very moment, the anti-gravity system shut down, and gravity was restored. Seizing the chance, the Scar King broke free from Kong's grasp and leaped straight into the portal. To stop him, Godzilla and Kong leaped in right after him. However, amidst the chaos, Kong's axe was left behind. Meanwhile, on the other side, the humans realized he had no idea just how massive a threat was looming. Suddenly, the ocean waves froze solid, transforming into towering mountains of ice. In the very next instant, the Scar King, accompanied by Shimo, descended upon the earth. Bathed in the light of the open sky, he spotted the humans below and let out a thunderous roar. He felt at that moment that the time had finally come to rule over the entire world. He commanded Shimo to freeze the sky. Shimo did not wish to do this, yet, compelled by necessity, she began raining down ice in every direction. In the blink of an eye, buildings too began to freeze and crumble amidst this devastation. Just as the Scar King felt that nothing could stop him now, that was the moment Kong delivered a powerful punch. He struck it, knocking its 3-ton tooth to the ground. Enraged, the Scar King ordered an attack on Kong. However, at that very moment, Godzilla arrived on the scene and intercepted Shimo. Now, without Shimo's assistance, the Scar King could not hold out for long. Consequently, he hoisted a massive building and hurled it at Kong, yet it inflicted no significant damage upon him. Just then, Shimo suddenly appeared from behind and lunged at Kong's mechanical arm. Shimo once again began to freeze Kong's arm. Witnessing this, the Scar King believed his victory was now assured, but he had overlooked the furious Godzilla standing right behind him. Godzilla. He immediately unleashed his full power, and his body began to glow with a violet light. The very next moment, he launched a fierce, direct assault on the Scar King. However, the Scar King, panicking, somehow managed to evade the attack. He attempted to counterattack with his weapon, but Godzilla seized it and, with a single swift motion, snapped it in two, shattering it completely, causing the crystal that controlled Shimo to tumble to the ground. The Scar King lunged to retrieve it, but Godzilla gave him no opportunity to do so. Now, everything hinged upon that crystal. Whoever managed to get their hands on it would emerge victorious in this battle. In that critical moment, the little ape's gaze fell upon the axe that Kong had left behind. He immediately